Cutiecalities, welcome back to my channel. First I want to say thank you so much for 25,000 subscribers here on YouTube, and I don't have enough words to describe how happy I am. Thank you guys so much, and also stay tuned for my next videos because I will have a surprise for you, my Cutiecalities. And in today's video I am going to be showing you guys how to crochet this beautiful yellow summery top. So I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you do, make sure you give a massive thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe so you can join the Cutiecality family. So enjoy the video! On today's video I'm going to be using a measuring tape, stitch markers, a 5mm hook, a small pair of scissors, and a tapestry needle. For my yarn I'm going to be using the Knit Craft by Hobbycraft, and it's a cotton blend plain yarn, which is one of my favorites. It's 100 grams and is a DK yarn, and this is the shade that I'm using, is in the color yellow. And the yarn is 50% cotton and 50% acrylic, which is amazing for spring and summer projects. And if you guys like to use pattern charts, I have created this one right here for the top. I'm still finishing the chart, but once this video is live, this is going to be finished and you guys can access on my website. So everything is going to be on the description below for you guys. So this is what we are going to be crocheting now. This is my back, and then I'll show you guys how to crochet the front of the top. So this top I decided to create as a crop top. It's a little bit longer than a crop top, but if you guys want to make it a little bit longer, then you guys can just continue with the double crochets and create as long as you want, and you can also make it as a dress as well. And the sizing for this top that I'm creating now for you guys in the video is in between extra small to small. It's made to my measurements and I am in between these two sizes. And if you guys want to make the top in different sizings, then just follow the instructions in the video, and you guys can also check a link in the description for my website. I made a post for you guys explaining how you make the top in other sizes as well. So we are going to be starting right here, and then we are going to be working all our way down to the bottom of the top. So if you guys want to know where I'm starting here in the chart, I'm starting right here in the magic loop, and then I'm just going to be working in half circles and then all the way to the bottom of the top. So we are going to be starting with a magic loop, so you're just going to be holding the yarn just like this, wrapping around your fingers, keeping on the back. And then on the back you're going to be going through the loop and grabbing the yarn and keeping on the hook. So here you have the magic loop, and then you can start your chains from this point. So we are going to be chaining 3. I'm going to be placing a stitch marker on my last chain, and inside of the loop you're going to be creating 8 double crochets, so 9 including the chain. So we are not going to be closing the circle, we are going to be working in a half circle, so just on this side. So you're going to be chaining 6 and then turning your project. Then you're going to be skipping the very first stitch, the next one, on the third one you're going to be creating a double crochet. And then you're going to be chaining 3. Skipping a stitch into the next one, a double crochet, chaining 3, skipping a stitch into the next one, a double crochet, chaining 3, skipping the next stitch into the next one, which is the last one, the last double crochet. So you should have 4 squares, as you can see. So now for the next row we are going to be working with double crochets. So you're going to be chaining 3 and turning the project. So now on top of the chain you're going to be creating 4 double crochets. And then on top of the double crochet you're going to be creating a double crochet. And then on top of the chain you're going to be creating 4 double crochets, and then on top of the double crochet a double crochet, and then you're just going to be repeating that all the way down. So on top of the chain 4 double crochets, and then on top of the double crochet a double crochet. And then for your very last double crochet you're just going to be counting 1, 2, 3. Here at the end on the third stitch you're just going to be creating your last double crochet. So now we are going to be creating a row with the squares. So you're going to be chaining 5, turning the project. So now we are going to be skipping the very first one and the second. On the third stitch we are going to be creating a double crochet, chain 2, skip a stitch, into the next one a double crochet, and then just repeat all the way down. Chain 2, skip 1, on the next a double crochet, and then just following the pattern, skipping 1 and then into the very last one, into the chain right here, a double crochet. So now we are going to be creating a row with the double crochets. So chain 3, turn project, and inside of the very first square we are going to be doing 2 double crochets. So now we are going to be skipping the double crochet into the next square, 3 double crochets, so 2 and 3, and then skipping the double crochet stitch, and then into the square we are going to be doing 3 double crochets, and then we are just going to be repeating the same all the way down, so 3 double crochets on each square. So when you get to the very last square you're going to be creating your 3 double crochets. So now we are just going to be creating an extra double crochet in this row for the pattern. So you're going to be counting 1, 2, 3. On the third chain you're going to be creating your double crochet. So now we are going to be chaining 5, and then we are going to be turning the project. So now we are going to be repeating the number 4 row again. So skipping the very first stitch, the next one, on the third one your first double crochet, chaining 2, skipping 1 stitch, into the next one a double crochet, and then just repeat the same all the way down. At the end you're just going to be skipping a stitch, into the very last stitch you're going to be creating your double crochet. So we are going to be doing another row with the double crochets. So chain 3 and turn project, and then on top of the square you're going to be doing 2 double crochets, and then on top of the double crochet you're going to be doing a double crochet, on top of the square 2 double crochets, and then on top of the double crochet a double crochet. So you're going to be doing 2 double crochets on top of the square and 1 double crochet on top of the double crochet, and this is what you're going to be repeating all the way down. So when you get at the end you're just going to be creating 2 double crochets on top of the square, and then a double crochet right at the end here on the chain. So now for the rows with the squares you're going to be chaining 5, turning project. So now we are going to be repeating the same as row number 4 and 6. So we are going to be skipping only 1 stitch in between the double crochets. So skipping the very first stitch, the next one, in the third one a double crochet, chain 2, skip a stitch, into the next one a double crochet, and then you're just going to be repeating the same all the way down. So when you get here at the end you're going to be having 3 double crochets at the end. So you're going to be chaining 2, skipping a stitch, into the next one a double crochet, and then you're still going to be having 1 last stitch, which is the very last one. So chain 2, and then on the last stitch a double crochet. So for the sizes extra small and small you're going to be doing 8 rows with double crochets in the squares. But if you guys want to make in different sizes, then you're just going to be creating as many rows as you need with the double crochets in the squares until you reach your collarbones. I'm going to be putting footages of everything that I explained to you guys on what to measure and until where you have to create the rows. And what you're going to be doing if you need to add extra rows, you're just going to be repeating these 2 last rows until you reach your collarbones. So now we are going to be jumping into this pattern right here, which is basically the last pattern for the top of the top, right at the top. So now you're going to be chaining 1, turning the project. Inside of the very first square, you're going to be creating a single crochet. And then on top of the double crochet, you're going to be creating a slip stitch. and then you're going to be chaining 7, and then you're gonna go back to the double crochet stitch, and you're going to be creating a slip stitch. So now we are going to be creating single crochets here on top of the chain and also on top of the double crochet until we reach this double crochet right here, which is the third one. So you're going to be counting 1, 2. On the third one we are also going to be creating the loop, just like this one right here. So you're going to be creating 1 single crochet on top of the square, 1 single crochet on top of the double crochet, 1 on top of the square, 1 on top of the double crochet, on top of the square, and then right here we are going to be repeating the same loop. So you're going to be skipping 2 double crochets, so 1, 2. On the third one we are going to be creating the loop. So on top of the double crochet you're going to be creating a slip stitch, and then you're going to be chaining 7 and then slip stitching again back into the same stitch. So now you're going to be creating the single crochets on top of the chain and also the double crochet until you reach the third double crochet from the hook. And then we are going to be creating the loop into the third one. So slip stitch, chain 7, and then go back into that same stitch and then slip stitch. So now you guys can just repeat all the way down, and then I'll meet you guys at the end and I'll show you guys what to do as well. So I am reaching here at the end, and I'm just gonna go through this double crochet here, which is going to be my last loop. So slip stitch, chain 7 and slip stitch back into the same stitch. So here at the end we have the square and the chain at the end, so you're just going to be single crocheting on top of the square, and then you're going to be creating your last single crochet on the very last stitch. And I have here 8 loops, and you guys should have the same amount of loops that I have if you guys are doing the same size as I'm doing. If you guys are doing in another size, then you probably will have a little bit more than what I do now. So now you're going to be chaining 1 and turning the project. So now we are going to be starting with the double crochets going around the loop, and I'm going to be doing 13 double crochets in total for each loop. So in between each loop we have 5 single crochets. So you're going to be counting 1, 2. On the third one you're going to be slip stitching. And then from here you're just going to be doing the double crochets into the next loop. So you're going to be creating 13 double crochets going around. So now you're going to be counting here on the single crochets 1, 2 on the third stitch. You're going to be slip stitching the double crochets down. So now you can just repeat exactly the same into the next loop. So you're going to be creating 13 double crochets around the loop, and then you're going to be counting 3 stitches, so 1, 2, 3. Into the third one you're going to be doing a slip stitch, and then you're just going to be repeating the same steps all the way down, and then I'll meet you guys at the end. So I'm here into my last loop, so I'm just going to be repeating exactly the same, so 13 double crochets going around. So now you're just going to be finding the very last stitch here on the side and creating a slip stitch. So this is how it looks like once you have all of them completed. So now we are going to be creating this next pattern right here on top of all of these stitches. So now for the next pattern we are going to be chaining 6. And then you're going to be turning the project. So I'm going to be calling this pattern right here that I've created with the double crochets a shell stitch, just so I can show you guys where I'm going to be placing my double crochets and single crochets. So you're going to be counting here on the shell stitch 1, 2, 3. Into the 4th stitch, you're going to be creating your first double crochet. And then you're going to be chaining 3. And then you're going to be skipping 1 and 2. Into the 3rd one, you're going to be creating a single crochet, chaining 3, counting 1, 2. Into the 3rd one here, you're going to be creating a double crochet. So now you're going to be chaining 3, and we are going to be jumping into the next shell stitch. So you're going to be counting from the very first double crochet, so 1, 2, 3. Into the 4th stitch, you're going to be creating a double crochet. Then you're going to be chaining 3, skipping 1, 2. Into the 3rd stitch, you're going to be creating a single crochet, chaining 3, 1, 2 on the 3rd stitch, a double crochet, chaining 3, and going into the next shell stitch. Counting here 1, 2, 3. Into the 4th stitch, you're going to be creating a double crochet, chaining 3, skipping 1, 2. Into the 3rd one, a single crochet, chaining 3, skipping 1, 2. Into the 3rd one, a double crochet. So this is how the pattern on top of the shell looks like. So now you guys will be just repeating all the way across, and then I'll meet you guys at the end. So when you get to the last shell stitch, you're just going to be repeating exactly the same as you did at the beginning. So 1, 2, 3. Into the 4th stitch, a double crochet, chain 3, skip 1, 2. Into the 3rd one, single crochet, chain 3, and then skip 1, 2. Into the 3rd one, double crochet, and then you're going to be chaining 6. So now you're going to go back here to the single crochet row that we have here, and then you're going to be creating a slip stitch. So this is how it looks like. So now you're going to be turning the project. So now we are going to be creating slip stitches until the first double crochet that you can find. So mine is this one right here. And then you're going to be creating a slip stitch here on top of the double crochet as well. So now we are going to be creating single crochets on top of the chains, only on top of the chains. So into the next chain space available, you're going to be creating 3 single crochets. And then you're going to be skipping the single crochets and the double crochets in between the chains. So you're going to go into the next chain, and then you're going to be creating 3 single crochets. Skipping the double crochet on top of the chain, you're going to be creating 3 single crochets. Skipping the double crochet in the chain, 3 single crochets. So now you guys can just continue with the single crochets on top of the chains, and then I'll meet you guys at the end. At the end, you're just going to be repeating the same pattern. So 3 double crochets on top of the 3 chains. And then you can just finish it off with a single crochet on top of the very last double crochet. So now you're going to be putting this part towards yourselves, so shoulder to shoulder. And then what you're going to be doing is just marking it down where your armpits are, as you can see here in the footage that I did for you guys. And then if you guys want a little bit more easier to explain, so count here into the spaces on the top. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Into my 5th space, into the middle stitch. Okay, so I have here 3 single crochets into the middle one. And now we are going to be working from this stitch marker all the way to this stitch marker. If you want, you can fasten off and attach your yarn right here, but I just decided to slip stitch all the way to that stitch, so that's what I'm going to be doing. So chain 1, and then you're going to be starting with your slip stitches into every stitch until the stitch marker. So into this stitch, you're going to be creating a slip stitch, and then you're going to be chaining 3. And then from this point, you're going to be creating double crochets, and I'm going to be creating double crochets all the way until I reach my next stitch marker. So all the way to the other side. So I'm here into my last stitch, so I'm just going to be removing the stitch marker and creating a double crochet into that stitch. And if you guys want to know how many double crochets I did 43 double crochets. So now we are going to be creating 4 rows with increases, and I'm going to be doing 1 extra double crochet on each side. So you're going to be chaining 3 and turning your project. And then into this very first stitch, you're going to be creating your first double crochet. And this is how we are going to be creating the increases. So now you're going to be creating double crochets all the way to your very last stitch, which we are also going to be creating an increase. So when you get into the very last stitch, you're going to be creating 2 double crochets into this very last stitch. And then you can just go ahead and repeat the same 3 more times. So you're going to be chaining 3, turn project, into the very first stitch, a double crochet, and then create double crochets all the way down, and then into the very last stitch you're going to be creating 2 double crochets. So when I come back, I will have my 4 rows completed, and then I'll show you guys what to do next. So this is how it looks like, and the next step is to create 2 rows with only double crochets and no increases. So we are gonna go back to here, and it's basically the same as we created on the very first row with the double crochets. So you're going to be chaining 3, turn project, skip the very first stitch, into the second one you're going to be creating your double crochet, and then you're going to be creating double crochets all the way to the very last stitch, and then you're going to be repeating the same row 1 more time. So we are going to be having 2 rows with only double crochets. So once you have finished your 2 rows with only double crochets, we are going to be doing now 3 rows with decreases, and I'm going to be decreasing 1 double crochet on each side. So we are not going to be chaining, we are going to be turning the project. So skipping the very first stitch, going into the second one and creating a single crochet, and then you're going to be chaining 2. So now you're going to be creating double crochets all the way down until you have 2 stitches left, and then I'll show you guys how to decrease at the end as well. So to create the decrease, you're going to be wrapping the yarn around your hook, going through the stitch, grab the yarn and keeping on the hook, and then you're going to be yarning over the very first 2 loops in the hook, keeping the last one in the hook, and then you're going to be doing exactly the same to the very last stitch. And then you're going to be yarning over the last 3 loops in the hook. So this is how we are going to be decreasing. So now we are going to go into the next row. So we are going to be doing exactly the same. Turn the project, skipping the very first stitch, into the second one you're going to be creating a single crochet, and then you're going to be chaining 2. So now you can just create your double crochets all the way down, and then I'll meet you guys at the end when I have 2 stitches left. So when you have 2 stitches left, you're also going to be doing the decrease. So just repeat exactly what I showed you guys in the previous row. And you can just go ahead and create 1 more row because we are going to be doing 3 rows in total. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do my last one off the camera, and then I'll be back to show you guys what to do next. So once you have finished the 3 rows with 1 double crochet decrease on each side, you're going to be creating 2 rows with 2 double crochets decrease on both sides. So we are going to be turning the project without chaining. And then for the first decrease, we are going to be skipping the very first one, into the second one a single crochet, and then chaining 2. So now into the next 2 stitches we are going to be creating a decrease as well, and we are going to be creating exactly the same as we did at the end of the row. So you're gonna go through the stitch, the next one, and then yarning over the very first 2 loops in the hook, and then doing the same thing into the next stitch, and then yarning over the very last 3 loops in the hook. So now we are going to be creating double crochets going all the way down until we have 4 stitches left. So when you have 4 stitches left, you're going to be creating 2 decreases. So into the very first 2 stitches, a decrease, and then into the very last 2 ones, also a decrease. So this is how you decrease 2 stitches on both sides, and I'm going to be doing 2 rows in total. So this one and another one. So I'm just gonna go ahead and create one more row, and then I'll be back to show you guys what to do next. And if you guys want the top a little bit baggier, then you don't have to do the very last 2 rows that I did with 2 decreases on both sides, and then you can just skip the very 2 last rows, and then from here you can just start your double crochet rows until you reach the length that you want. So once you have created your 2 last rows with decreases, we are going to be creating 9 rows with only double crochets, no decreases or increases. And this is going to be the length of your top, so you have to decide the length that you want. I decided that I want to do 9 rows for the length, so from here all the way down, and that's going to be more like a crop top. But if you guys want a little bit longer, then you can just create as many rows as you need. So you're going to be creating normal double crochet rows, so you're going to be chaining 3, turning the project, going all the way down with double crochets, and then at the end you're just going to be making sure that you get the very last stitch. And then you're going to be repeating the same steps until you have the length of your top. So this is how it looks like, and this is how my top is going to be. I have finished right here my 9 rows that I had to do with only double crochets. And once you're happy with the length of your top, you can fasten off, and then you can create another part exactly the same as this one, so you have the front and the back of your top. So I have my other part completed, as you can see. So now we are going to be sewing the sides together and also the shoulders right here, and I'm going to be explaining to you guys how to do that. And to do the sewing, I'm going to be using a tapestry needle and the same yarn as my project. So now you want to choose how you want the top to look like. I decided that I wanted to have the top a little bit on top of my shoulders. So what you're going to be doing is putting one of the parts towards yourselves, and then you just want to put a stitch marker where the top of your shoulders are, and then just a little bit basically going around your shoulders. So I decided to start here at the beginning of the shell and just going through here all the way through the middle of the shell, as you can see. So I'm just going to be sewing throughout this part right here, and you're also going to be choosing where you're going to be starting to sew under your arms, and this is where I'm going to be starting. So I've counted here 1, 2, 3 rows, and then on top of the 4th one I put a stitch marker. So I'm going to be doing exactly the same to this side. So I'm going to be starting to sew my project right here and then going all the way down. I'm going to be sewing the sides of my top with 2 yarns, as you can see. If you want to use only one, that's completely fine. And then at the end right here, I'm just going to be creating a knot. So I'm just going to be removing my stitch marker and inserting my needle right into that stitch. And then you're just going to be counting exactly the same on the other side. So 1, 2, 3. On top of the 4th row, you're going to be inserting your needle. And then you're just going to go through here the loop and pull tight. So now you're just going to be creating a very simple sewing going down, but you just want to match every single row to each other. So you can see here the double crochet, and then here as well. You just want to match all of them so you know that you covered all of the rows, and it's basically matching also here on the bottom. So I'm just going to be matching these 2 and just sew them together. So the sewing is very simple. You're just going to get 1 stitch from one side and then 1 stitch from the other side, and then sewing them together. And then you're just going to be doing the same all the way down, and then I'll meet you guys at the end to show you guys how to fasten off. And then when you get into the very last stitch, you're just going to be sewing them together. So now to fasten off, you're going to go through that same stitch again, the very last one. And then right here you can just fasten off, so leave a little bit of the yarn at the end, go through the loop and pull tight. So now you're just going to be going through some stitches right here, so just weaving in the yarn. And then you're just going to be cutting the yarn. And you're going to be doing exactly the same with this one, so you have the project clean so we can do the edgings as well. So this is how the sewing looks like. It's very nice and clean, and you're going to be doing exactly the same to the other side. So when you have the other side completed, you come back and then I'll show you guys how to do the shoulders. So I'm going to be using my thread and needle again, and then starting here at the beginning of my shell, I'm just going to be closing this little space that I have right here. And then I'm going to be doing exactly the same into this side. And then just sewing both together. And I'm just going to be using the same technique as the sides as well. So now I'm just going to be following the stitches. So I have here the chain. So I'm going to be sewing the chain together. And then right here I have the single crochets. And then I'm just going to be sewing the single crochets and matching exactly the same stitch that is the stitch marker to the other side. So I'm here into my last stitch. And then what you're going to be doing is just going through one more time. And you can fasten off. And then you can just do exactly the same as we did on the sides, weaving in the yarn and cut the yarn. So this is how the sewing looks like, as you can see, and it's exactly the same on both sides. That's why you want to match the stitches when you're sewing. And now you're going to be repeating exactly the same on the other side, and then I'll come back to show you guys what to do next. So when you have finished the shoulders, you're just going to be turning your top inside out. So now we are going to be doing a little finishing for the neck area and also for the bottom. For the bottom is going to be a little bit easier because we have the stitches. So you're going to be attaching your yarn into any of the stitches here on the neck. So I'm going to be creating a slip knot. I'm going to be starting into any of the shoulders, so here in the sewing that I did, and I'm going to be attaching my yarn into any of these stitches right here. So the pattern is going to be very easy. So you're going to be chaining 3, and then into the same stitch you're going to be creating a double crochet, and then you're going to be just pulling this stitch kind of like straight, and then you're going to be finding a stitch and you're going to be creating a slip stitch, and then you're going to be chaining 3 into that same stitch. You're going to be doing a double crochet, and then you're going to be finding a stitch. So right here you're just going to be pulling straight and then matching into the base and finding a stitch, and then creating a slip stitch into that stitch. So chaining 3, a double crochet into that same stitch, and then you're just going to be matching with a stitch, so this one right here, and then a slip stitch. And this is what you're going to be doing all the way around. So chaining 3, double crochet into the same stitch, and then you're just going to be matching with a stitch here in the base, and then slip stitch. So now you're going to be doing exactly the same all the way around, and then I'll meet you guys at the end. And then you're going to be creating the last one here. So here we have the very first shell. So into that stitch where we've created the first shell, you're going to be slip stitching to that stitch, and then right here you can chain 1 and fasten off. And this is how it looks like when you have all of the shells completed, and I think it looks really pretty, but you guys can just decide how you want to do the neck. So now we are going to be jumping into the bottom of the top, and I'm going to be doing exactly the same. I'm just going to be showing you guys a couple, and then you guys can just do the rest by yourselves. So you're going to be attaching your yarn into any of the stitches. So now for the shells it's going to be exactly the same. So you're going to be chaining 3 into the same stitch, a double crochet, and then you're going to be skipping 2 stitches because I want this part to be a little bit tighter on my body. So I'm going to be skipping 2. If you don't want it to be too tight, then you're just going to be skipping 1. So 1, 2 into the third stitch, you're going to be creating a slip stitch. So you're going to be chaining 3 into the same stitch, a double crochet, skipping 2 into the third one, a slip stitch, and this is what you're going to be doing all the way around, and then I'll meet you guys at the end. So I'm here into my last stitch, so I'm going to be chaining 3 into the same stitch, a double crochet, and then I'm going to be skipping 1, 2 into that stitch, which is the third one. I'm going to be creating a slip stitch, and then I'm just going to be creating another slip stitch into the very first stitch where I've started and I did my very first shell. And then right here I'm going to be chaining 1, and then you can fasten off. So this is everything for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. I really like how it turned out. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of the top. And if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure you give a massive thumbs up. And also don't forget to subscribe so you can join the Cutiecality family and watch more of my videos. And also if you crochet this top, make sure to share with me on my social media. I love to see your creations. So I'll see you guys soon on my next video. Bye bye!